It's kind of an interesting exercise that I think people have to get their heads wrapped around. So it's like, even if some regulatory agency like the SEC forced Uniswap Labs to shut down, okay, in order to shut down the quote unquote like Uniswap protocol that you're talking about, the code that's deployed on chain, how far would they actually have to go? You have to shut down Ethereum. You have to block US users' ability to access the internet. You have to like shut down the internet itself. How far is the SEC prepared to go to like control this decentralized exchange? That's kind of the question.
SWAT teams entering people's homes.
Right. You're going to come get all the Bankless listeners listening to this episode? Like,
yeah, which gets at why like this like sort of like the rules are clear, we just need to enforce them like narrative from the SEC is like kind of ludicrous. Right? It's very clear this technology is so different, and it's, you know, the sort of scale of like you can just go after, you know, a centralized thing and shut it down, but you can't here, and so it's very clear the rules have to be different, and it's very clear that like so it's pretty crazy.
My favorite way to sort of understand, because I think what happens in sort of mainstream consciousness is people associate like just the average American. And by the way, you're going to have the opportunity here as this escalates to make your case in front of the American people, which David reframed this for me a bit. It's like, at first I was incredibly disappointed. Like, how could America do this? What's wrong with our regulators? Thank you.
How dare you touch Hayden Adams?
Yeah, how dare you? Okay, another Adams, all right? But now I'm just like, wow, this is a tremendous opportunity to make the case for Uniswap. Who better than Uniswap to actually be like brought to the forefront to make their case in front of the American people? I think people right now have a tendency to associate crypto with the bad crypto actors as well, right? So SBF. But what Uniswap provides is SBF can't F you up, you know, because it's Uniswap. There is no SBF in the Uniswap protocol, and you have the opportunity to tell that story. Your tweet yesterday was really cool. You said this: when you build technology that improves people's lives, you don't need to hide. You don't need to hide. I hope that is still true in America, Hayden. And I want to ask you, maybe just address the average American citizen who has no idea about SMTP protocols and how the internet was made. They just enjoy like the fruits of the internet, okay? What's your case to the average American, the average, you know, Joe Public, where you get to say, this is why Uniswap improves your life, why it's good for the world?
Yeah, look, what we're doing simply, and it's in the early, you know, DeFi is like an early industry. It's in its like infancy. It's like the internet, you know, 20, maybe more like 30 years ago. So we're in the earliest stages. But what the internet ultimately did is it empowered people. And not every aspect of the internet was good, right? The internet has been used for good and bad, but like very few people could argue that it didn't provide far greater access to information, and was like a fundamentally empowering technology. And what we're trying to do, the mission of, you know, of what DeFi is and what Uniswap is really trying to do that for a world, for like, you know, the world of like essentially finance and other forms of like ownership and digital ownership. We're trying to make, you know, it more accessible, to make it more fair, to level the playing field, and to, you know, improve the technology behind it. And we think that's like a worthy cause and a good mission. And really, you know, when you look at it's not like it's in the early days, and when something is early, it's like inefficient, right? And so when something is early, it's you know, and I think when people hear about crypto and they hear about it in this way of like, oh, I heard Bitcoin burns more energy than Norway or whatever, right? But then like, you know, I don't know it, but like what you have to understand is that like this technology is in its early stages, right? Ethereum, you know, is now, 99% more energy efficient than it was 2 years ago with proof of stake. And that's just an example. And I know people kind of, even in crypto, don't like that example on both sides, but whatever. The point is that like part of our job, you know, as crypto people is to speak to people who don't know and understand everything that we do. And so what I'd say is that like, again, this is in its earliest stages, but it's competing with, you know, it's competing with like massive entrenched financial interests, right? Like today, the world of finance, and much of the, you know, and what much of the internet, which is what we sometimes call Web 2, is like, you know, controlled by very few dominant players, and it's there's some really like negative, like, okay, a very simple example is that you put your money in a bank, they pay you like 0.025% interest, they take like, you know, they make like 5% interest or something, right? Like there's just like this massive like value redistribution from like society and people, like everyday people, towards like the people that own the like systems that are sort of entrenched. And part of what we're trying to do is build systems that allow people to really own their own assets and have access to the same opportunities. We want we want everyone to have access to the same yield opportunities that banks currently take with other people's money, right? Like things like that. We're trying to build like a more level system, a more level playing field. Yes, it's early on. Yes, there are like things that we have to figure out to make it better, to make it more reliable, et cetera, to make it faster. It could be like the same way like dial-up was slow and kind of expensive relative to like the fiber we have today or whatever. Like there are parts of crypto you might like use it and it'd be like, oh, this is kind of weird and slow and I don't quite get the user experience. And we're working. A lot of people, like literally tens of thousands of people around the world are working to make it cheaper, faster, more accessible, easier to use, and like the end result of what we're working towards in my view is a far better, far fairer system. And so there is sort of like there are steps along the way, and I think part of what we have to do is show people like one thing to note is that like a lot of people trust their, like in the United States, for example, a lot of people trust their bank for better or for worse, and I think we saw maybe with some stuff last year that indicated some banks are maybe at risk as well. But in a lot of other countries around the world, people don't trust their banks, and they don't trust their currencies. And so having access to like today, there are many countries where currencies are being devalued at a very rapid rate, and honestly, even the U.S. dollar sort of has some like pretty significant inflation. But ignoring that, I think that like there are countries where like inflation is in like the 100% per year or more. And so like access to these tools are already helping people around the world, right? Like Uniswap and Ethereum is already like saving people's lives in countries that have far worse financial systems than we do today. And so to throw all of that out and to try to like make it really hard to build is actually really damaging to people around the world who don't have the same opportunities.
To continue leveling up your crypto game, then you need to get on the Bankless newsletter. It's the world's most popular crypto email and is completely free. Just click below to sign up.